Why you're still in pain despite trying everything. You've done physical therapy, changed your diet, and improved your sleep. Maybe you've had injections or even surgery. And despite doing everything right, you're still in pain. The problem is that many treatments miss what happens in the brain when pain becomes chronic. And unless these changes are addressed, recovery simply reaches a point where it simply stalls. Hi, I'm Dr. Brosh. I'm a physician with 20 years experience and I personally recovered from chronic pain. In this video, I'll show you one of the most important brain mechanisms that keep chronic pain going, why it may be the missing piece in your own recovery, and 3 practical strategies you can start using today in order to start changing it. Before we go into the solutions, you first need to understand what happens in the brain when pain becomes chronic. Because if you don't understand the underlying mechanisms that shape the brain in chronic pain, the strategies I'm going to share with you later will not be as effective for your healing. The form of pain that is acute serves as a defensive mechanism. It's like a danger alarm. When we touch something hot or cut ourselves with a knife unintentionally, then pain serves as a protective mechanism and it keeps us away from danger. But in chronic pain, a different type of process takes place. And we may ask, oh, why does pain persist? Or why does it shift locations or changes in intensity or changes over time? And why sometimes we do scans or tests and everything comes back normal, but the pain still persists? Over the last 2 decades, researchers in pain and brain science have showed what happens in the brain. And in a moment, I'll explain to you the exact loop that takes place in the brain. And once you see it, once you'll understand it, many pain conditions and experiences begin to make sense. The first structure in our brain that is linked to pain and causes pain is called the amygdala. It sits in our reptilian brain and it's a part that detects danger in our environment and reacts to protect us. The amygdala becomes overprotective in chronic pain and it makes ordinary sensations begin to feel threatening. But fear alone doesn't fully explain chronic pain. Another brain region turns out to be equally important, and it's the interaction between these 2 regions that creates the real problem. Another important brain area that is activated in chronic pain is called the ACC. And while the amygdala is responsible for the activation of fear and defensive responses, the ACC is responsible for the suffering around pain. Thoughts like, I'll never recover, or my life is over, or this will never end, or my body betrays me, are thoughts that are generated by the ACC. The problem is that in chronic pain, the amygdala activates the ACC and vice versa. And in this way, they create a closed loop that increases the sense of danger, that increases the sense of fear, and increases the sense of protection by pain. And this cycle perpetuates pain and makes it harder to completely release oneself from it. You can think of it like walking in an uncharted territory. The first time you walk, there's hardly any traces, but if you repeat walking on that path more and more, it widens and creates a true path. In this way, the connection between the amygdala and the ACC becomes stronger the more they are activated in chronic pain. Now, I want to be very clear about one point here. We're not saying that the pain is imagined or created only in the brain. These are the newest scientific findings about chronic pain. Science shows it again and again in large studies, and it helps us understand better what happens in the brain in chronic pain. The encouraging news is that in the same way that the brain learns how to create more fear and therefore more pain, it can also unlearn those habits. So this means that our intention and goal in healing is to replace those brain networks that create a sense of danger and therefore create more pain in networks that create a sense of safety, capability, and self-confidence. And I want to show you now the first brain pattern that unknowingly strengthens the fear and pain cycle and how to shift it towards a sense of safety, release, and healing from pain. The first pattern is called in the medical literature fear avoidance. When we suffer from pain, it creates fear of the pain itself and of activities, and therefore we begin avoiding many activities. At first, this sounds like a logical and reasonable reaction, but what happens over time is that this avoidance intensifies the pain. Let me explain to you why. What avoidance does is that it strengthens the idea or the belief that activities are dangerous, and it signals the amygdala and the ACC that we should indeed be more careful. That in turn creates more pain. So instead of helping us, long-term avoidance increases and prolongs the suffering that is related to chronic pain. Just this week I had a conversation with a patient that told me that when the pain began, he used to be able to walk 45 minutes and even an hour straight. But then the more the pain increased, he reduced the level of activity and then walked 30 minutes and then 15 and then 10 and then only 7 and then 5 and then he was even afraid to walk for 2 minutes in a row. This shows us how fear and avoidance begin to shrink our capabilities while signaling danger signals to the brain, and this creates more pain and more suffering. So our strategy, the first strategy, is called gradual exposure. What we want to do is pick a single activity we want to go back doing and start doing it gradually. We begin in our safe zone. So we measure, for instance, how many minutes we can walk while feeling comfortable and safe. And we expand it gradually, day by day, week by week from then. An example for that could be choosing walking. So the first week would be a 2 minutes walk every day. The second week would be 4 minutes. The third, 5 minutes. The fourth, 7 minutes, and so on and so forth. We want to increase the intensity, we want to increase the length and the time we do this activity each and every week. By the way, if this resonates with you, I've prepared a free starter kit with more meaningful resources that can help you on your healing journey. The link in the description below. Fear and avoidance are only one part of the whole picture. There's another part that many people don't even realize influences pain. At first, it doesn't look related to pain at all, but when we look at it more closely, it influences the brain in meaningful ways that also influence the levels of pain. Let me share with you a personal story. When I suffered from chronic back pain, over time, I tended to isolate myself more and more. It wasn't a deliberate thing, it was a consequence of the pain itself. I never knew when the next attack of pain would come, or whether if I go out and hang out with friends, whether I would suffer from a pain flare-up. So this uncertainty caused me to become more and more isolated. The thing is that as humans, we need social connections, we need social support. And the pain cuts us from connections and narrows and shrinks our social life. This sends messages of danger to the brain. It activates the amygdala, it increases the activation of the ACC that we've seen before, and therefore can increase the levels of pain and the suffering. And if you understand what happens on this level, you can take a counterintuitive but healing action, and instead of isolating yourself when in pain, try to regain and reactivate and reconnect to important people in your life. What you can do is choose one specific person that you really trust and you really love and reach out to them. Share with them your difficulties, share with them your condition, and express with them what bothers you and what weighs on you. In this way, you will re-establish important connections, you will feel the support that comes back to you, and the brain will receive messages of safety instead of messages of danger. And when the brain receives those messages, pain will, over time, reduce itself. Reconnecting with life can be very supportive for healing from chronic pain. But there's one more aspect that many people overlook, and for so many, it's the missing key that helps them open the way towards healing. The connection between tension, stress, and chronic symptoms, as well as pain, is well established. While usually we have the stressors of life, like work, relationships, and day-to-day responsibilities, With chronic pain, there's another layer that adds on top of it, which is the tension that pain itself creates. Will I be able to move as I wish? Will I be able to recover? Do I need to do more exams? Do I need to do more treatments? So we have an extra layer of tension on top of the usual tensions of life. This tension accumulates in our brain and body and emotional system, and when it doesn't have a way to vent out and be released, it creates an overload in our nervous system and brain, and if we reach a certain level, it can activate the amygdala and the ACC and reactivate this vicious cycle of pain, fear, suffering, and so on and so forth. What we want to do here is to create a sort of an intentional vent, a way that can help us process, express, and release those extra layers of tension. One excellent way to do it is journaling. Journaling is a simple yet highly effective technique that can help release this extra tension and reduce the levels of pain over time. How do you journal? So first of all, you need either a notebook or a computer file and 10 minutes per day. What you want to do is write for 10 minutes, express honestly, dump everything onto the paper or computer file, and remember that nobody else needs to read it. Focus on your worries, frustrations, fears, maybe resentments, and unmet needs. Let the paper or the computer file absorb everything. And after you finish it, delete it or throw away the papers. In this way, it's like a symbolic act that says, whatever was held and accumulated within me is now being released and let go of. If this video helped you see your pain differently, let me know by hitting the like button. It also helps YouTube send this video to other people like you that maybe benefited from this knowledge. We've covered the topics of fear avoidance, reconnecting socially, and venting out and expressing emotions. But for many people, this is still not enough. There's still a missing piece that can help many with chronic pain. One of the most important things in recovery from chronic pain is healing about other people who suffered from similar conditions to ours that recovered. Connecting to such stories can reignite hope, and hope is such a strong motivator in healing from chronic pain, because when hope is reignited, you're more open to trying new things, giving a chance to new strategies you haven't considered before, and really giving it a fair chance. If you want to hear one such story, I'm sharing here in this video my own recovery story in much detail. If you want to see what were the struggles and what helped me finally break through and heal from the pain, watch this video where I walk you through my own recovery.